they started asking questions, and then I start talking, and I can't shut up. So look what happened yesterday. Excuse me there. We have this thing called dust out here, and there's lots of it today.
Oh, yeah. We're getting smoke from the fires. There's fires.
You guys got fires already?
Yeah, there's a bit bad fire burning down in the Durango Cortez area, and it's just coming in here. We can't even see the mountains.
Oh, wow. Oh, goodness. Well, we don't want to take your time up. Hi, everybody. This is Lee Merideth. Let's see. I think I read that you started your Titanic fascination let me pin you here, when you were in the 5th grade?
5th or 6th. We never have quite figured that out.
You were reading like the Night to Remember?
Night to Remember. Yep. We read that in school. We had one copy of the book, and they would pass the book around from student to student to student. That's how we learned how to read out loud and read. And yeah, that was our training. That was our training session. That's how we learned how to read and how to learn about Titanic.
So yeah. What fascinated you about the story that made you wanted to learn more?
Just, when you're that age, you get fixated on something. And all my friends were fixated on baseball and football and sports. I was fixated on books and history. So that was I had a really good teacher that 2 or 3 years in a row. I had some really, really good reading teachers and history teachers for that age. And 5th, 6th grade, you don't get much of that. And so I just got hooked on it, and it was kind of a hobby, an interest I had for probably 20, 25 years or so. And didn't really do much with it because there wasn't much available. I mean, other than that one movie that was out, which I never even saw until probably 15 years ago. We didn't have a TV when I was growing up, and it wasn't on. It was not in the theaters. I'm talking about The Night to Remember. So it was just whatever was available. Popular mechanics, popular science. They had about the only things available on Titanic, and most of what they published back 50 years ago was wrong anyway. So I found out later on. But it was something to research and learn about. That's how I got started. Yeah. And, it wasn't until about 1988 that I decided I was actually going to write a book about it, and that was after they'd found the wreckage and everything. And I spent about 10 years researching, and writing that first book, and from there it just kind of expanded into a lot of different directions from there. So I spent 13 years on the road, literally 6 months out of every year, traveling around the country doing Titanic related stuff. Lots of fun.
That was after you wrote your first book, or you have 2 Titanic books out, right?
I've got 2. I've got the 1912 Facts About Titanic, and then I've got the one Titanic Names, which is a list of everybody who was. Bye. Oh.
Oh, here we go. Yeah. I know I couldn't find mine here, so I couldn't show you, but I'm glad you could. I have them here.
I've got that book. That's the first one I did, and that's been out now since 1999. And then I did. This is not one I actually wrote, but I did the historical background on it. Some of you have probably seen this book. Some of you have probably seen this book. It's been published several different times with several different covers and everything else. And the author, Moody Adams, contacted me one time and said, hey, how about if we do another version of this book and you do some historical background for it? And so I didn't write this book. I just did the historical background. This is my favorite book right here.
I love that book because I'm being a passenger girl.
Yeah. So this is the newest version.
Oh, but I don't have the revised edition. All right, I got to put this on my shopping list.
You got to get this one here, the Centennial Edition, because it's 24 pages more than the first book that came out. And it's got a whole lot of new information, updated a lot of the stuff that I didn't have in the first book. So yeah, this is my favorite book.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I don't have that revised edition. So did you say the best way to order the book is directly through you, your books?
That's what most people do. I mean, you can try ordering eBay, you'll find it, but they're just used copies. I don't sell it on eBay unless I sell it myself. I do have them on eBay. Same thing with Amazon. You won't find anything on there except used copies because I don't sell into Amazon. There are too many. Whoops, there are too many problems for that. Turn this phone off here. Sorry
Yeah, I
about that.
think I was talking to George Behe, the author, yesterday, and he was telling me how he'll get like a quarter every now and then from Amazon. It's like,
Oh yeah, I mean it's ridiculous. I mean, by the time they get their cut, you have to sell it for about half of the retail price to begin with, and you got to pay them their cut. Then you got to pay for postage, and you got to pay for this and pay for that, and it's not worth it. I have more important things to do than sell books on Amazon. I sell enough books just to the Titanic exhibits, the gift shops that are part of the
right.
various Titanic exhibits. I'm still selling 3,000-4,000 books a year that way, and I'm not even having to go on the road to sell them. They just order them and order them and order them and order them, and then we run out. They order some more. So that's why sell them on Amazon. So I do sell them on eBay. I have them on there right now. All 3 books on there for half price. That order's up there. I think it's still up. May have come down already, but that's up there usually all the time. I occasionally sell books on that, but people will. If you put the price on there, people don't seem to understand that's for 3 books, not just 1 book. So they don't read the small detail. But so they're on eBay occasionally, and the other times you get them is when you go to a Titanic exhibit like the one here in Vegas, and they have them there all the time. Orlando has them, of course. Pigeon Forge and Branson have them, and that's about the only 4 places that sell the books all the time, unless there's a traveling exhibit like the Las Vegas group. They have that traveling exhibit that goes around the country. So sometimes they carry them there when they're traveling. So, and they've been in Australia. They had that Titanic exhibit in Australia. He carried them over there. We actually printed them in Australia. It was cheaper to print them there than it was to print them here and ship them there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we actually hooked up with a printer. And but they're out. They're all over the place. The one book, the Facts About Titanic, we printed just a little over 130,000 copies of that book. Sold them all. So it's a good selling book. So,
Were you able to meet any survivors in your travels?
I've met a few of them over the years. Of course, I was back at one of the conventions, and I met Melvina Dean, and there's a couple others out there that I've met over the years. But I do have a copy of the original version of this book, the one you probably have.
Yes.
As I was traveling around the country all those years, I kept 3 copies of that book, and somebody came by, bought a book, or just talked to me and could convince me they were related to somebody who was on Titanic, I would have them sign the book. And so when I got 100 signatures in the first book, I started my second book. And then I got 100 signatures. I started the third book. So I've got with the 3 books about 230, 240 signatures of people who are descendants of people who were on Titanic.
Wow.
And but they had to convince me that they were actually a descendant. So they had the same name, or they could come up with a good story. I mean, I'm sure there's a few of them on there that probably are bogus, but for the most part, I think they're all pretty accurate. So I met a lot of descendants. I had a lot of interaction with a lot of descendants. Had some pretty cool stuff going on.
Oh, that's nice. What did you think of Melvina Dean? Where did you meet her?
At the convention back in what year? Where were we that year? I don't know. It's Titanic Historical Society.
Oh yeah, because they've had her.
One of
She
theirs.
was like an honorary member.
Yeah, I can't remember where it was now. It's been so many years and so many of these things I've been to. I forget which ones are which. But yeah, so I mean, there weren't many around. I actually got really interested into doing this kind of stuff. It was like I say, I started in '88. By the time the book came out in '99, that's about the time I started going to a lot of the conventions and stuff. Most of them were gone by then. Michelle, my wife, is big. She's really tied in with two or three of those family members of some of the people who are on the ship. She's out talking to them all the time. So through Facebook and other pages, yeah. So
How long
She'd
have
be
you been
here.
a
Huh?
member of the Titanic Historical Society?
I was for about 15 years, and I stopped that. I got to be the point where there's just too much stuff going on,
Yeah.
and I had to slow down a bit. And so I was for about 15 years, but I stopped back in about 2001, 2002. I just had, first of all, I had all those books, magazines. I had no more place to put them all.
I know, that's
And
true.
yeah, so I was starting to weed things out. I was trying to downsize my life at that time. So I just started cutting things out. I just cut out all my Civil War books and my military history books and everything else. Titanic went out with that. So I just gave up on that. There's just too much going on.
Where did you do most of your research to find out all the names of the passengers? How did you?
Well, the original research, a lot of it was done in the Library of Congress. I do have a research card there. And go through some of the archives there, and you can find a lot of this information. But then you just start talking to people, and oh yeah, so and so is there, and so and so. And Walter Lord published a list at the back of his book of all the people who were on the ship. He just published, I believe, the passenger names. I don't think he had.
Oh, in his A Night to Remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I went kind of use that as a basis to start with. I found there's a lot of people listed in that book. I mean, when he wrote that book, he had problems with that, getting accurate information also. It's a pretty good list, but I've expanded on it quite a bit. And there's some of the people who he had on there as having survived didn't, and some who he had that didn't survive did, and stuff like that. And it's just when you're dealing with 2,000 names, and you're going through all these different archives, resources, trying to get the right information is not all that easy. Back in about 2000, just about the time the Names book came out, so that was probably around 2001, 2002. They had a Titanic exhibit over in Phoenix, Arizona, and I was over there one day, and I had one of those printouts of all the names that are going to be in that book, and it's one of the old green bar printouts. Remember those? If you remember those, okay. If you don't remember those, too bad, but you miss out. But anyway, so I had this green bar printout. I'm going through and doing proofreading and checking against back and forth between different lists and everything. This woman walks up to me and she looks at, well, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm getting ready to publish a book. It's going to be a list of everybody who was on Titanic. And she points down the length of the building. She says, see that guy standing down there at the end? That old gentleman? And I said, yeah. She says, well, he's a brother of one of the people who was on Titanic and did not survive. And I'm going, you're kidding. And I wish I could remember. I was trying, just before we started, I was trying to look up his name. I didn't have a chance to finish though. But anyway, he's the brother of the guy. Well, it turns out he was born 23 years after Titanic sank. And so this mother, now she had a kid who was on Titanic who was in his 20s. 23 years later, she's still popping out children. So she's got a lot of kids floating around, right? So, but they were from the Middle East someplace. And so anyway, I met the guy, and he spent most of his life in the United States. He spoke great English and everything else. But she's looking at the book, or the printout. She says, well, you've even got his name correct. It's a lot of times people who print his name put his first name as last name as the first name. It's one of those weird names. You never know which is which, right?
Right.
She says, you've got his name right. She says, Walter Lord had it backwards. He got his first name as his last name. So I said, oh, that's interesting. One of these Walter Lord things. So she said, yeah, we've got a lot of members of our family scattered around the country. We've lost track of them a couple generations ago because, we don't know where they went. So I did what I usually do. And I say, well, why don't you give me your name and address, phone number, email, whatever. If I ever hear of anything exciting, I'll let you know. And she did. And that was in 2002 or 2003. And then about 5 years later, I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, sitting there just talking to people. And this woman walks up with a copy of the book, and she looks at me and she throws the book on the countertop. She says, your book's all wrong. Okay, I've heard that before. People have said your book's wrong. Okay, so tell me why. Well, you've got my ancestor in there, and you got his name backwards. You got his last name as the first name, last name. So I said, who was it? And so she told me, I'm thinking, that name sounds familiar. So I said, I think I know something that you may not know. I said, come back here tomorrow and I'll go through my computer tonight. I think I can help you out. Because in the meantime, she's saying, yeah, we lost all of our family members. They're all scattered around the country. Can't find them. So next day she came back in. I gave her the name of this woman out of Phoenix from 5 years before. And I said, give her a call and see if you guys know each other or are related to each other. So about 3 days later, she comes back in and she walks around the counter and gives me a big old hug. And she says, I call this woman up and it comes to find out she is part of the family that we haven't been able to find for about 3 generations. So I said, what name are you guys going to go by? Because you have 2 different names. Well, we haven't resolved that yet. We still don't know which is real last name and which is real first name. But she says in September, this was in June or July, she said, September, we're having a family reunion here in Cleveland. They're all coming out here. We got people from all different parts of the country and Canada coming down here for this reunion. We'd like you to be there for it. We'll pay you to fly out and do this. So I was still in Cleveland anyway, so I just went to this thing. It was on the national news that morning, or the next morning when it happened. And so these 2 families had lost each other over the years, finally got back together. And to this day, I don't know which name they're using. But it's it's one of those fun stories that you start dealing with people in a book like that.
Do you remember the passenger's name? And I can look.
I was trying to look it up while just a minute ago when you guys were talking and getting ready here, and I didn't have. While we're talking, when you say something, I think I know who it is.
I know, because I'm a student of passengers, so I love. Especially, it's nice to learn about the family. And did the family talk much about him being lost? Because a lot of times
they
those
really
families
didn't know anything about it,
Right.
Hold on a second. I think I know who it is. Yeah. Okay. The last name is Elias. Elias.
Elias.
I think that's it.
Okay.
Wait, no, that can't be right because I can understand that.
I know.
No,
'cause
that
I'm
can't be. This I got to look it up. I mean, I'm gonna have to go through.
Okay, no problem. I can always talk to you again.
I'll drop you an email when I figure it out. But it's
All right.
it's a weird name, and unless you know that language, people tell me, so yeah, this is the way it should be, and this is the way it should be, and because you got to know the nuances of the language. And it's not Elias. That's not. I thought that was it. But I'll see if I can find it while we're talking. So anyways, that's who it was. So they got the 2 families back together. But I've had a lot of interactions with people like that over the years.
Oh, that must have been great. So is that something that's in the new book, in the new 24 pages, or is that something you were able to put in?
I don't think I put that in there. I try not to put stuff in there that I've in the names book that have anything related to my finding people or that kind of. I try not to put that in there.
Okay, try to keep.
I just try to give you name, address, or not address, but name and the city they were from, if they survived or not, a little bit about them, if we know anything about them. Some of these people we know a lot, some of them we know nothing.
Yeah.
And a lot of them we know nothing about, unfortunately. But and the new book's got the list of all of the pets that were on the ship and all the clergy that was on the ship and what happened to all the kids. I mean, it's just got a bunch of little subsets.
Oh, all right. I'm definitely gonna get your new book.
Gotta get that one right. Yes. Sale.
And I know your 1912 Facts is a good beginner book too for people that are just kind of coming into the story that want to get people that don't really know much about the Titanic story. It's like a great way to.
Right. That's what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a good lead in. It's supposed to be a good general history. It's the first and only general history of Titanic. I mean, Night to Remember covers Night to Remember.
Right.
And basically starts that night. It ends. I think it ends with the court hearings. But there hadn't been much written when Night to Remember came out. Nothing had been written after A Night to Remember. And so when they found the wreckage, that's kind of sparked this interest. I said, I've been really interested in this. I've always wanted to be a writer, and I got all this information on Titanic, which when I started doing research, I actually found out that most of what I had. What I thought was accurate information was not accurate information, but it got me interested in actually getting a book written. The book was pretty much done as a typical narrative book. Excuse me, I get the hiccups. Pretty much done when the movie came. I did not know they were making a movie. they made it under a different name, you know. So, and I don't go to the movies, so I'm not paying attention to when I do the previews and stuff like that. So I don't go to the movies. But so it was pretty much done when the movie came out. All of a sudden, the movie's out. I'm getting all these orders. The book hadn't been printed yet. I mean, it was still a year away from being printed. And so I'm thinking, well, here's 10,000 orders I just lost. Here's another 10,000. I could have sold 500,000 books if the book would have been available.
Well, people went book crazy.
Yeah,
You know,
so
anybody was putting books out then in 2012. It's like people were buying them regardless of whether they were good or researched. Or
I met a guy, actually, he owns a publishing company back east, and he and his business partner decided they needed to have a Titanic book out when the movie started to come out. They hired 2 guys who spent 10 days writing a Titanic book and published it, paperback only, trade paperback, the small like that, and sold thousands and thousands of copies of it because bookstores were buying anything, and I actually bought a copy of it. I read part of it, and I just tossed it in the trash. I mean, it was just garbage.
Yeah, I bought a couple.
People were buying anything at that time. So anyway, I had the book almost done, and everybody kept telling me, I'd talk to people about it. And they said, well, I want to read a good book about it, but I don't want to read a narrative about it. I want to read the facts. So we ripped the book apart. We knew we weren't going to make the movie. So we ripped the book apart, started all over again with chronological order, back base, no footnotes. We took the footnotes out because I'd had issues with footnotes in the past, and then published the book. I mean, and when it came out, the original publisher for the book printed 2,000 copies, sold about 200, and trashed the rest of them. And why he did that, I don't know, which was fine for me because he gave me the publishing rights. Oh. Once I got the publishing rights, I now own I own the copyright and the publishing rights to the book. And I'm a printer by trade. My background's printing books and newspapers and magazines. I figured if I could print books for other people, I could certainly do it for myself. So I went out and found a printer, did all the typesetting myself, and I did all that layout stuff, and found the photographs and put them in, and then got a hold of a printer in Michigan. Good place to print books because it's the middle of the country. So shipping is, you aren't shipping all the way across country. And I've been with them now since the first book they printed was 2000, year 2000. And same printer all these years. They keep the price low, and they turn this stuff around when I need it. I print 5,000 copies at a time. And when I was really busy years ago, I was going through 5,000 copies a month.
Oh my gosh. Where do you keep it? Do you still have that printer?
Yeah, I still use the same printer. The stuff's stored at a warehouse in Michigan. And I just call them up or send them an email. Said, we sell by the case lot only. You can't buy just 10 copies. You got to buy a whole case.
Right.
Unless you order from me directly. But so they just case lot only. And I was shipping out, my freight bill some months were over $1,000 just to ship books from point A to point B. And we did a lot of that. So I was on the road all the time. So I just sit there with the computer at night, and all these different companies had the gift shops would call up or send me an email. Send X number of copies of this, X number of copies of that, and here's your purchase order. Here's, just go ship this stuff. Because I not only had the 2 books, the names book and the facts book, I had postcards, I had posters, 2 posters I had printed up, and I bought a bunch of 6,000 copies of a music DVD, music CD from a guy who had sold a couple 100,000 of them and then got stuck with about 6,000 left. He didn't know what to do, so he gave them to me real cheap. I was selling those in the gift shops. So I started branching out into other little things. So, you make a lot of money doing this stuff because when you print the books yourself, you're not paying somebody else to do it. You're not paying a middleman. All you're doing is paying for the printing and the storage. And of course, the end user, whoever buys the books, pays for the shipping. So why not?
Right. So you could be that rare author that I can actually make a living.
Make a living off of it. I did for 13 years.
Yeah, because when we were talking to Don Lynch, he's like, "Oh, you definitely need a side job,
Yeah. No, this was a full-time job. I was working 6 months of the year, and I'd be on the road, and I'd come home, My apartment was empty during the summertime, which was great. It's too hot out here anyway. You don't want to pay for electricity, cool it off.
Right.
And I'd come home and I had people that mailed took care of my mail for me and forwarded it to me every week or so. It worked out great. Drove back and forth across country about 9 times in the course of about 13 years. Sometimes I fly, sometimes I drive. And but yeah, a lot of fun.
Now you said
Had a
you
lot
were
of
you part of the Vegas exhibit? I think you were saying you were there when they brought in the big piece and everything. Were you
I was in
involved?
Vegas. The first Vegas exhibit was in '99, and it was at the Rio Hotel. I was there for 7 months. And then about 3 years later, they put it in Tropicana, and it was there for a little over a year. They moved it out, and 6 months later, they moved it back in, total different set of artifacts. And it was there for another year, then it moved out, and now it's over at the Luxor. So this is the 4th stop, and every time they go someplace, they move new stuff in. And the big
It's
piece.
not an easy thing to move.
No. That big piece was in. They had it in the Rio, and they had it at one of the 2 stops at the Tropicana, and now it's over at the Luxor. And they had a 10-year lease on that space, with 2 10-year extensions available. Let me quiet the bird down.
You should introduce everyone to Coco, your bird.
It's Coco's in the other. This is Michelle's.
Oh,
other
there's
bird.
another bird
This
that you
is
have?
a little bird about this big. And
Oh.
he makes twice as much noise as the other one does. Excuse me, I'm gonna cover it. Maybe that'll shut her up. So hold on one sec. Quiet, boobies. Google up. All right. Maybe that'll shut her up. She thinks it's bedtime now. But
Not getting enough attention.
yeah. So anyway, we had that one exhibit, and they had the big piece. I followed the big piece all over the country. I've been every place the big piece has been. I've been. But yeah, the back in 06, 07, sometime around there, was in San Francisco. Have you all seen the big piece? Anybody?
I've seen the big piece.
There are only 3 of you on the
Vegas.
screen besides me, so you've seen it?
I know. Have you seen it, Melissa? Have you, Richard?
I saw it in Denver when it came through.
Okay. Yeah, okay. And Melissa's on mute, so she can't talk. But
You're free to unmute yourself if you want, Melissa.
Yeah, I saw it some years ago.
okay, where'd you see it at?
I forget what exhibit it was, but it was an exhibit that came through Philadelphia.
Okay, the one at the the big one there.
Yeah,
At the Science Center.
right.
That
I think
was a good
I
exhibit.
think it
I
was the
sold.
Franklin Institute, I think.
Yep, I was there for all summer selling books, and half the winter selling books there.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so the big piece is was in San Francisco, and they lifted it up on the, I think, 7th or 8th floor of the Marconi Center there. And so they block off the street, and everybody's out there, crowds of people standing around, and everything. Got this big, huge crane. You got to lift that thing 7 stories, and you got to set it on the roof of the building. And then they had a little cart, or big cart, on wheels that they would use to move it around until they got it into the building and set it up and that kind of stuff. Quite a process. It takes 2 or 3 days just to get the big piece set up. But so this was one of those days, and I'm up there with my camera and everything, because they allowed me to go up there with all the construction crew, because I knew most of them by this time. And I was up there taking pictures and looking out over the edge. The big piece had come all the way up to the top, and they were just getting ready to set it down on the floor itself, on the roof. They were still putting braces underneath it and everything else. I'm looking down over the edge, and all of a sudden I see this big puff of smoke and flames. And the crane that was lifting it up to the roof caught fire. And the steel cables were burning. There was flames.
Oh my
coming up all the
gosh.
steel cable. And so the fire department was out there. They're out there trying to put this fire out on this steel cable. It's still holding the big piece up off the ground. I mean, it was off about 2 or 3 feet off the roof of the building. So, had this happened while it was hanging out over the street, this 20-ton piece of steel, cable would have collapsed or something. I could just imagine that big piece falling 7 stories onto the street below.
Oh my
Right below that is where
gosh.
the BART line is, the subway line is right under that street. Or if they'd had it on top of the building and they would have dropped it 3 feet to the roof of the building where they were working, all these people running around and working, crawling around underneath that thing. You know, that thing could have killed a bunch of people. Fortunately, they got the piece braced enough so that they could disconnect the cable. And then when they finally got the cables disconnected, they dumped them over the side. The police cleared everybody out for about 2 blocks and tossed these red hot cables off the edge of the building. And they went back and fell down on top of the crane that was lifting it up. So they almost lost the big piece. And I was there taking pictures of it. I said, oh, that would have been a good. Good
And I could
photo
see
to
people
share.
scattering around picking
Oh
up
yeah,
pieces
people
of
are all
that.
over because the police cleared the area for like 2 blocks. They're afraid this. But when they threw the cable over the top, this is a couple 100-foot steel cable that they got there. They just tossed it over the edge, and it went out in the street and everything else. They just want anybody around it, make sure nobody got hurt. But yeah, that was pretty impressive. So then they almost. I think I told you about the Luxor when they moved that one in. Took them. They're supposed to be a one-night move into the Luxor. They couldn't get it in the building the first night because it was
It wasn't a big enough opening.
Yeah, the door wasn't big enough to. They had to take the door frame and something knock some of the wall out, the rock wall, and to get it into the Luxor. So then they missed getting it lifted upstairs to where it is now. They did that the next day. They lifted it up. They put it in. They moved and rolled it into where it's setting now. They set it up and built the escalator system behind it, so that's why they can't take it out now. They have to pay $3 million to rebuild the escalator if they take that piece out. And so anyway, it's setting there, and they build the rest of the display around it. And then they have opening day, opening weekend, and I mean the place just jammed with people. And I'm sitting there with I have a table I always carry with me. We had to set them back in the corner in the gift shop, and I had my I use these like big pens or round pens. I use them all the time. And I'm sitting there at the table, just kind of looking at people and waiting for stuff to happen. I laid the pen down and kind of go this way. Okay, so I pick it up and I kind of roll off the edge of the table. I did this 2 or 3 times. I said, well, this is odd because we've been sitting there for weeks with this table sitting there. It's not a problem. So the guy who was in charge, he's a kind of good friend of mine. I called him over and said, hey, why is this pen rolling off the table? He said, well, you probably just need to put something under it. And I said, come on, you know me better than that. I said, I think there's something weird going on here with this floor. So he's rolling marbles and everything else, and everything's all rolling off the side of the table. And as the course of the day went on, it started rolling faster. So he called in the engineers from MGM Grand, and they came and they started doing some work on this thing. And come to find out, when they put the big piece in there, they allowed for the weight. What they hadn't allowed for was 1,000 people standing around there, and the weight of all these people standing around that big piece. And the floor was starting to do this. And right below that floor was a huge bar area with open stage, all kinds of stuff. There's always some sort of musical going on there. And they're down there, the engineers are down there, and they could actually see where the floor is starting to sag.
Oh, gosh.
And this is a like 8-foot thick steel concrete floor. I mean, it's a huge, huge floor. So they had to close that area down below. They blocked off most of the first level of the Luxor while they're trying to figure out how to do it. The solution to what was going on, all that excess weight was collapsing the floor. And the only way they could fix it was go all the way down to the basement, which is 9 levels below where we were, all the way down to bedrock. And they had to build new frames, new concrete pedestals, and everything else, and jack up all the floors, and then put a new big thing underneath the big piece so it wouldn't collapse the building, the Luxor. So that was pretty fun. Being involved in all these weird things that nobody ever hears about. So.
Oh yeah. You got to work with the big piece. People would probably pay to be able to do that.
Yeah. So I was in there. I was at the Luxor for about 4 years. I just kind of lived. That's why I moved to Vegas. I just worked at the Luxor. And then.
So were you giving tours, or what were you doing there?
No, I just signing books. I'd go in 3 or 4 days a
okay.
week. And sometimes I would do tours. I did. There was a guy came in several years ago when I was there, and he was some multi-millionaire from Los Angeles. He wanted a private tour, so we gave him a private tour. He and his family. They paid a lot of money for that tour. I was happy. But but yeah, there's movie actors and actresses. They come through all the time. We were giving them tours, showing them around, stuff like that. But it's
wow.
it was a fun job. And then the people who, when Premiere lost the rights to that, some guy bought them out. I don't know the history of that or not. We don't need to get into that. But Premiere got bought out by another company and retained the Premiere name. But first thing they did was get rid of the 3 book signers. There's 2 other authors besides me that were in there, quite a bit signing books. And they kicked us all out because we sold too many books. Believe that or not.
Wow.
We sold too many books.
You sold
Kicked
too
us
many
out.
books.
We sold too many books because they did not make the profit margin. They sell all this garbage in the gift shop and they make 200% profit on it. They pay a penny and sell it for $2 type of stuff.
Oh,
And they weren't making the profit margins. If they'd have wanted those kind of profit margins on my book, they'd have to sell it for $100. So they weren't making the profit margins. They were making more money, but not the same margins they wanted. So they kicked us all out. Haven't been back there since, which is fine.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
But,
that's.
they still buy the books. That's all that counts.
I know.
We're not there pushing them anymore. You can sell.
And people weren't able to go and meet, you know.
Yeah. You
Meet
can
the
sell
author and
30, 40,
everything.
20, 30 books a day at the Luxor if you're there. That's no problem. Back when Titanic was a big thing, I was going through 200 books a day. I'd learn how to sign my name with my left hand. I had to learn how to sign my name with both hands.
Well, I always think of Melvina Dean, you know, how many different things I've seen for sale. Her hand must have been, you
Yeah.
know, so tired. And I wish she profited a little bit because, you know, she died very poor. And I thought it'd be
Right.
nice if she got a little commission for all those items that she signed. Yeah. Melissa, did you want to ask anything, or Richard?
Yeah, you guys ask some questions.
Have you ever wanted to dive down to the wreck?
Have I wanted to? Yes. Have I? No, but I came really close to it one time.
Did you?
There was a guy who was on one of the dives and he got really sick. He couldn't go, and he called me up. He said, "Well, are you ready to make the trip?" And that's when I was just getting ready to go to Australia, do some book signings. And it was either go down on the wreck or go to Australia. Well, I guess where I did. I went to Australia. Because there would be an option for me to go down again later on because I was part of the group. It was kind of like a waiting list. You know, your name comes up, you want to go, you could go. So I figured my name would come up later. It never did, so unfortunately. But yeah, I would like to go down there. I know quite a few of the people who've been down there. So
and then of course there's the whole thing with Titanic too, if it ever really happens.
Yeah, that's I don't know if that's going to happen. I really don't. It's already sold out. They've sold all their tickets.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's sold out right away.
Made a keel yet?
Do what?
He hasn't. There's no yard orders out for it. There's no keel laying. There's nothing for that.
It's going to be 10 years before it gets built, if then. At the rate they're going. Yeah, I know. Helen Bensinger, do you know who she is?
Yes, love her.
Yeah, Helen.
She's the great granddaughter of Margaret Brown, Melissa.
Okay.
She was one of the first people that they asked to be on that ship. And she says they didn't have to ask me. I would be on there either way. Now, her sister, Muffet Brown.
Oh, yeah, Muffet.
Muffet Brown wants nothing to do with it. She said, I don't want anything to do with Titanic. I don't even like Titanic. So you got your one sister that loves it and the other one hates it. And so they're funny people. Helen is just a great person.
I love her. Helen actually invited me to go and see Branson Museum with her, and that was a lot of fun because they treat her like royalty. It's like,
oh yeah,
Helen's here, you know, roll out the red carpet and like presents for her, and you know, whatever you need, you know, practically follow her around with the chair if she needs to sit down. But she's just so lovely to everybody and makes everyone so.
They put her up at that big resort out there on the lake. And one night there was a bunch of, they were doing a big book event. And so a bunch of us were out there and took us all out to that resort. And they bought us dinner and everything. And we
was
were
this when you were in New York, when you were in Australia?
Well, this was in Branson. Excuse me,
Branson.
Branson.
Okay.
And so we're all having dinner, and Helen got up and she started going from person to person, and she handed every one of us a 1912 penny.
Aww.
You know, and she collected all these
sounds
1912
like
pennies for all the people. So I've got that one picture of Titanic that's hanging on the wall over here. I think Michelle showed you last time. So we got the penny embedded in the frame of the picture now. So it's kind of cool.
Oh, that's
But yeah, she was giving everybody pennies.
She's so sweet because she would just stop and talk to everyone, you know,
Yeah.
everyone. And
She loves to talk to people. But yeah, you have a bird.
yeah, which one is that? The small one or Coco?
No, that's the big one. The small one hasn't made a sound since I covered her up. Now Coco's having a fit. So, but yeah, I love Helen. She is a neat lady. And,
she's really special.
She is.
So are you. Did you want to ask anything, Richard?
We got 3 people here. Ask me questions.
I know it's like I like these little intimate book clubs. Sometimes when there's so many people, it's a little overwhelming trying to, you know, I don't really get to pay attention because I'm writing down, trying to figure out who's next and what's their question. This is very.
I'm good. We had a great chat yesterday.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. Thank you. I'd like to do that again sometime because
sure.
We've got a lot.
I'm always game on this stuff. Yeah.
I think I'm going to pop over to Facebook and see if anybody over there has questions.
Yeah, I've been watching. I haven't. A lot of people said hello.
Was everybody is on Facebook?
Well, we push it to the group, Facebook Live. Anne Marie said it's nice to put a name to a face. Will Kindler and Isaac, I hope I say that name right, Vardag are watching. Melisande said, interesting. Mandy Marie said, hi, sir. Thank you for your amazing work. And David said, bonsoir, bonsoir, bonsoir. Nice to see you guys. I don't know, maybe the weather's getting nicer. People want to be outside.
Be outside. Well, it's 109 here right now outside.
Yeah.
It's just starting to get nice in New York. We're just starting to reach the upper 70s, 80s. It's been a long winter here.
I do have one question. What do you know about what they were saying about the Marconi, that they're trying to remove it from the ship? I heard something.
Oh, yeah. That's the people. The politics behind who owns the rights to this wreckage now is getting to be something beyond what even I can keep track of. But RMS Titanic, or Premier, that owns RMS Titanic, filed for bankruptcy. I don't know if you know that, about 3 years ago. And because some investor bought all the stock and then jacked the price way on up, and then the stock market crashed in 2008. And all of a sudden he owns tens of thousands of shares of Titanic stock that he bought for $16 a share. It was now worth less than $1. So eventually he had to go file for bankruptcy for this. And then a group of guys, and I'm still trying to figure out who it was. I think we talked about this last time, didn't we, Joe? Group of guys apparently bought out RMS Titanic, kept the name, and because they have the rights to the name and the artifacts and everything else, they also have the rights to go back down to the wreck site. And they've been down there once since they did this. That was last year when they went down. But the Marconi system is up on the main deck. It's easily accessible because it's the wall that's between it and the outside has collapsed over the years. But all that Marconi stuff is still there. It's all brass. It's all in good shape, and like probably usable still. And so they want to go back down there and take it out and put it on display. Well, great idea, except they can't take anything out of the inside of the wreck without court approval. That's U.S. courts, the British courts, and the Irish courts. They all have to agree that you can take something out of the
I thought they had approval or something.
No,
but I guess
they don't have approval. They're trying to get approval.
Oh, so some judge approved, but then now there's like other judges now?
Yeah, the U.S. judge has said, okay, you're going to lose it if you don't take it out. Go ahead and take it out. Well, then.
Oh, so the U.S. judge said okay.
Yeah.
but
So
then
the UK
okay.
judge and the Irish judge, and or actually a French judge, there's 4 different countries involved in this, said nope, can't do it. So now it's hung up. That's where it's, it'll take. I think they'll fight this for years, and I think the reason. And I think I think they're right. I think the reason these guys want to go down and get it is to display it for a while and then sell it.
Yeah.
Remember, they just went through a bankruptcy. They just spent a ton of money buying Titanic out of bankruptcy. Somehow or another, they got to get their money back, and they're not getting their money back now with tours because they're closed.
But that's not what they're saying when I hear
That's
interviews.
not what they're saying. That's just it. Once you have possession of something, you can do all kinds of stuff with it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I could come and buy, you could come and sell me your car and say, just don't ever sell it or I'll give it away. And I could say, sure. And then a year, months later, I could sell it to somebody.
So
yeah,
you
that's
really,
the problem. So
you really think that's what
I think that's what they're doing. I really think that's what they're doing. And I don't know anybody else. I mean, there's some people out there, I think we've mentioned at the last talk, that's kind of interested in that kind of stuff and was willing to look into it some more. I don't have the time to do that. You had a question, Richard?
No, I've just been keeping up on it because I'm a big radio guy, being an extra class ham radio operator. Funny story you might appreciate. I actually built a copy of the Titanic's emergency transmitter when I was in junior high in Southern California, and was playing with it on a Sunday afternoon. And the next day at school, everybody like all the kids under 12 block radius were talking about how the Rams football game kept on getting interfered with. So I took that apart real quick, but I do know that they're wanting to go get the motor generator with the spark discharger on it. The rest of the equipment, all the stuff that was in the sending room, the tuner and all that stuff got washed in the sinking, and there's parts of it in one of the staterooms. There's the desk and a bunch of stuff from the Marconi room. It's a lot of stuff that wasn't bolted down that's now in one of the officers' staterooms. There's a big pile of stuff in the corner, and that all came through with that. So, I for one, I'm kind of like 50-50 on it. Yeah, it would be nice artifact to bring up, and it's going to get destroyed if it just gets left.
Right.
And so, any damage they do to try and recover it, it's just nature's gonna do it for them in a few years. So
yeah, I just I don't mind if they recover stuff. I just don't want them to sell it or put it in private collections.
Yeah, that's something that I would really oppose, because that's I thought there was already a thing that said nothing can be sold or put in a private collection. So I don't know. I thought there was a court ruling on that.
Do you think things have been sold already since the?
I know stuff has disappeared. Stuff is just back in Nashville one time before the exhibit opened. They had a big plexiglass steel case with glass around it with 7 or 8 items in there, and with an armed guard watching it, and somebody broke into the damn thing and stole everything. The armed guard didn't even notice. I think he was part of the plot. But yeah, there's pieces like that have disappeared. I don't know if I mentioned it the last time we did this. As you walk into the Luxor, first room you go into, there's a bunch of pictures of people who are on the ship, and then there's that porthole, the glass porthole in the frame, and the cover that goes over. Anyway, it's hanging on the wall, and there's a bunch of curators that work there, and they're there all the time, and they know the pieces and everything. And one day, one of the curators noticed that there was a bolt missing out of that frame for that porthole, and it had been there. They had photographs of it, and it just flat disappeared. And so they tried, well, how did somebody get this out of here? It's up high enough where you almost have to have a ladder to reach up there to get to it. You have to have a wrench and the whole thing. And So they decided to go back through and start looking at the video footage because everything is recorded in there. And they started watching. They saw this guy who was about 6'6". He could reach up there real easy. And he's up there with a wrench. He's loosening the bolt and he disappears. And they started going back further and further. And it kept about 7 or 8 different times over about a 3-week period. He'd come in there, loosen the bolt a little bit, and then leave. And he'd come in and loosen a little bolt a little bit. Well, finally, one day the bolt came out. So he put the bolt in his pocket and walked on out. So unfortunately for him, fortunately for us, he went into the gift shop and he starts buying a bunch of stuff. They got him on camera and he pays with it with a credit card. So then they went back through the credit card receipts for the day and they found out who this guy was. They know his name, his address, and he was from Dublin. He was an Irish citizen over here on vacation. So they managed to get a hold of the Dublin police or Scotland Yard, whoever's in charge of that kind of stuff. And they walked up to him, walked up to his house, and they said, "Here we are, we want our bolt back." "Oh, okay," and he gave it back to him. So he had stolen this thing, and they were able to get it back. Now, what he was planning on doing with it, I don't know. There's Michelle. So, hi, Michelle. So anyway, that's my wife, by the way.
Yay.
So, so anyway, they found their bolt. So there's weird stuff like that. People want this stuff, you know.
But that's just for average citizens. That's not people that are granted the rights to.
No, but you know, I keep hearing stories of when stuff was being brought up. You know, they bring so much stuff up, and they categorize and log on everything they had. And, you know, maybe a piece went that way and a piece went that way. You know, and nobody looked or nobody paid any attention or just everybody looked away. I hear those stories. It wouldn't surprise me if there's stuff like that. I have.
Well, it's such a big market too. You know, there's a lot of buying and selling of, you know, Titanic is, well, as you know, it's such a, you know, you put Titanic's name on something and you know, it's a good way to make some money. Although, you know, some people are selling things that aren't even, you know, legitimate. So you have to talk to somebody who knows what you know, what it should really look like and things like that, because people can also get scammed.
Like my bottles of Titanic sinking seawater I want to sell.
Oh yeah. Everybody, this is Michelle. This is Lee's wife.
She's upside down now. Oh, there she is.
So happy you could make it.
How's Tupperware?
Oh, she hasn't turned her camera on. Oh, here she goes.
How's Tupperware doing?
Got to unmute herself.
Oh,
okay.
I thought she did, but now it's muted again.
No, there it's muted again.
I think you're hitting it. Okay, there you
go. It's going well. You know, it's just kind of right now.
And slow, yeah. Doesn't even start till 11 o'clock, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So I got people, you know, starting to streamline in, but it's kind of quiet right now because it's early. People are still sleeping. Bowling. There's bowling. The bowling alley's right across the street. So, so it's a nice area. You know, it's open. It's nice, and I hear my bird.
Yeah. I know. Even your little one was making some noise.
I had to cover Booble. So what you're hearing now is Booble and Coco are starting to carry on it. She was barking here a few minutes ago.
That's rich. I like that.
So were you guys married when Lee was doing all his traveling and book signing and everything? Were you guys weren't together then?
We met at the last place I went, Dearborn, up in Michigan, when they had it at the Henry Ford Museum. That was the last time I ever did a big summer-long book signing because demand was dying off. The people who took over the exhibits, those artifacts, no longer wanted authors in there. I mentioned that. So she was working up there, and that's where we met.
Okay. Wow, that's neat.
What
were you doing, Michelle?
I was working at in the Greenfield Village. I was working as a fine dining server, and I did not even know about Titanic having a centennial exhibit until I saw it. It had these coming attractions when you're about ready to leave the the village, and I saw that. I'm like, no, not again, no way. I was really excited because they had it in the Detroit Science Center in 2003, and that was the last time they had an exhibit. And so this was going to be in my backyard for the centennial. I was just over the moon. I could not contain myself. If you saw me see the poster the first time, and I even took a picture of the when I first saw it, you would look at that woman. It's like something is wrong with that woman, because I was just crazy, And they're
She
like,
still is.
yeah, I know. I said it's a Titanic thing, but so at that point, once the exhibit came, we got a private view by the employees, and usually I'm there maybe 5 hours. I knocked it down to 3.5, but still it was a long time. And then I would visit the exhibit, or I had a grocery list of souvenirs that I was going to get, and that's when I met him. And I got one of his books, and I had him sign it. And it was interesting. The first book I got, what he said in the book, and then the second book after we started dating was a little bit different written in the book. I'm like, oh. So that's our story.
Wow, that's so nice.
It's
So
fun.
then you said you didn't know a lot about the story when you met? When
She
you
knew a lot about it.
Oh, you knew a lot.
Oh,
Okay.
she was studying this thing for all of her life too, just about. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Yeah, my dad, my parents just got divorced, and then my mom told me about Titanic to my dad. My dad, he had a boat. He loved the sea.
I'm gonna go shut the bird up. Sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Oh, the bird is so cute.
He loved the sea and everything. And so when my mom told my dad that I loved Titanic, he gave me my first book, and he signed it and everything. And it was the one, Titanic is told by survivors, with Lawrence B's.
Yeah, I have that book.
Yeah, so does he. And so I kept that book, and I always had it with me, my very, very first Titanic book. So coming, taking, as I got older, I got more curiouser about Titanic. And Lee told me he got entranced when he read A Night to Remember and met Winnie Trout. I didn't meet any survivors.
Oh, we met Winnie Trout.
Yeah, he met Winnie Trout when he was 10 years old, and he wrote.
Oh, is she the one that came to his classroom or something?
Yeah, Winnie Trout.
Yeah.
And,
she's the one that she had her kids and didn't have a life jacket. And then someone gave her theirs. Is that?
Well, she's the one. Yeah, one of the passengers didn't think she was going to get off the ship, and handed her baby over to Winnie Trout on a lifeboat. And then later on, when they got on the Carpathia, the mother of this baby, was there. She'd managed to get on a different lifeboat, so the woman got her child back. But Winnie Trout took care of the child while thinking that she's going to be stuck, not stuck, but she might become a mother here because she's got this child. But the real mother was there. So.
Yeah. And I was just saying that Lee got involved by reading A Night to Remember. I got involved by seeing it. And it was like a 11-year-old child seeing this movie by myself. I started getting really emotional. And so what happened was my mom told me, she says, well, you'll understand when you get older and all that. So that's how I got involved with Titanic. When I saw A Night to Remember, it traumatized me a bit, seeing a beautiful ship like that getting swallowed up by the Atlantic,
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Then you might find this man who has the same passion as you, and
it's weird. Yeah. And then once this year I met Lee. That's when I joined Facebook. Actually, it was a year before that. And then that's when I started getting all these Titanic friends, such as Joe, and then you, and then a few others, and it's just ballooned, and so I love my Titanic family. So I mean, I haven't met, somebody who hasn't been really nice, you know. So I've been very, very blessed and very grateful to have, you know, it's like the Titanic family. They seem to be very patient and nice, and you know, they're not.
I know, and it is like an extended family, isn't it? We're trying to get Melissa in. She's not quite sure where she heard about this event, so we're going to try to pull her into the book club. Melissa,
Yeah.
where do you live?
I'm Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Facebook seems to throw stuff at me if it's about Titanic. It knows I like Titanic, so if it's to do with Titanic, I get a post about it. So that's how I found out about this.
What's your story? What got you involved?
Basically, I was watching a movie when I was really little, and I thought it was a really pretty ship. And my mom was like, well, my mom was very special and not in a good way. She's like, yeah, that ship's going to hit an iceberg and sink, and everybody's going to die. You know?
Oh, gosh.
And I was so horrified, but I kept watching it. And then I went to the library because I love to read, and I asked them if they had any books on the Titanic, and they had A Night to Remember. And I read it and I became obsessed, and I just kept taking the book out and out and out and kept reading it to the point where they wanted to give me the book, you know?
Wow.
And so ever since then, I've just been obsessed by it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I feel like Titanic calls people to remember her, and a lot of people, it seems, when they're younger, like 5th, 6th grade, when, you know, they're studying in school. Otherwise, it seems to be like a big event, like Titanic, like the Cameron's movie, or Walter Lord's A Night to Remember. I feel like the Honor and Glory game, when that comes out, that's going to be the next big thing, you know.
Yeah, the thing is that there's so much a part of Titanic that you don't know at all. And I see all these documentaries, and it's like, you know, you need to, you know, there's only so many ways you can explain about the Titanic conspiracy, and just learn about the truth, and that's it, you know. And that's it, you know. It hit an iceberg, and it, you know, it scraped against the iceberg and it sank, and that was it. Not a conspiracy, like there was somebody, it was vexed, it was hexed, or, you know, I mean, I just shake my head when I hear all this, you know, as the Titanic conspiracies. I think there's no conspiracy. It just happened. It was just bad. It was just it was there at the wrong time, at the wrong place. You know?
Yeah, I know people come out with these conspiracies, and they sell books, and, you know, I feel like if you want to make a little money, you can just come up with a new conspiracy and write a book about it, and
Yeah.
people will buy it. You might be in the news for a little while, and then till everybody.
I found out the name of that guy.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna write this down.
While my wife's chatting here.
I love having her.
His last name is Dika, and his first name is Mirko. So, and he's from Croatia. So he's en route to Vancouver. So he's the one that the two families didn't know which is the real last name, because Walter Ford's book.
Oh, right, because either of those names could be
Mirko, comma Dika being the first name, and so I'm sure there's others like this we don't know about, but these two we know about because people came up and said something. So, but that's who that was. So I was able to figure that out while we're done.
Yeah, well, we when the Belfast Memorial came out, I think it had 1,503 names. So a whole group of people from Encyclopedia Titanica sat down to figure out, because the number that most historians, I'm not sure about you, but decided it was 1,496 people that died. So they went through this whole thing, and they found out that a lot of people some people were on there twice, or some people actually survived, or, you know, but they were able to pull apart. There's a whole article about it on Encyclopedia Titanica. But it was very interesting to see people go through the list. And
well, there's you often see there's 2,200, and I don't know. There's a list with about 20 extra names on it. People who are supposedly on the ship, and I think ET did research on it. I did some research on it, but a lot of these places that came up with these additional names, those were the people who got off in Queenstown. So yeah, they were on Titanic. They got off in Queenstown. They didn't take them off the list of having been on the ship after it left Queenstown. So that's,
they didn't end up being a
numbers are weird.
survivor.
It just depends on where you're looking. So, but yeah, you could have Mirko Dick's name on there twice. You know, if you didn't know we're cross-referencing them, you would not know that. They're two people.
I see you have some Ken Marshalls there behind you. I've got that one cutaway.
The cutaway? I love
Yep,
that.
I've got that.
I've got several of his. We don't even have them hanging up here. We don't have any room for them.
Oh.
These two down here, can you see the two on the right behind me? Those are the two posters I sell. And
Oh, those are your posters that you sell? Oh, you'll have to,
Yeah.
you can't zoom in because you're on your computer. Oh,
So,
do you still sell those? Now, where would people buy something like that from you?
that's at gift shops or through me.
Oh.
Did you post my email address?
Yeah, I need to, I'm going to do that still because I need to put it in as a message, but I wanted to make sure I got all the information from you.
Okay.
And
If somebody
different
wants,
things.
if they're interested in something, just email me and I'll give you pricing and everything else.
Okay, yeah, and everybody in the book club that's watching, I'm going to share Lee's Facebook page with you all. And,
Basically, because of the contracts I've got out, I can't sell the books for less than $10, so I just sell them to you for $10. If anybody wants one, I can't give anybody a discount because of the contracts I have.
well, $10 is
So,
nice.
The same price the gift shops buy them for. So.
Okay. And he did update. Richard, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, do you want to show everyone again in case they came in late what the new updated version of the Titanic Names book?
Oh, yeah. Give me a second.
Because he updated this with 24 new pages because I think there's probably people watching that are like me that have the old version.
Yeah, the Titanic Names is my favorite book between the two of them because he's got it organized, who survived, who was the youngest who survived and who didn't, who's the oldest who survived and who didn't.
There it is.
Yep, that's it.
See this photograph now. I have a friend of mine who has done all of the design work on all my covers over the years. He's out of Iowa and never met the guy, but he's a good friend of mine. So one day I'm looking for a really good photograph of Titanic. Well, that's obviously not Titanic. What it is he was in South Carolina and there was a maritime museum down there. And this is a model. It's a 42-foot long model somebody built and used it, and it was there. And Scott was traveling through there with his family, and he saw the model. He spent 2 hours taking pictures from various angles of this model, and we got the approval to go ahead and use it for the cover of this book. The other book is the same model, different view, but that looks pretty realistic, if you ask me. That's a hand-built model of the Titanic. I love that photo.
Me too.
I love it too.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
I love it.
Yes.
The Titanic's last hero is the same photo, but from a different angle. So when you show that, you'll see that. So, but yeah,
right.
I love the artwork this guy did.
So is that what the posters are there? It's hard for me to see without my glasses. Where are my glasses?
He also did these. These are postcards. Postcards and posters. Can you see it now?
Oh yes. Oh wow.
And I see Michelle in the picture. Oh, that's fine.
You can see. What's the artist's name again? Did you say?
Jim Zach.
Zach.
He's a professional. He works at a junior college in Mason City, Iowa. And that's what he does. He does these kind of things. The other one. See that one?
I love that.
Beautiful.
Can't tell if you can see it or not.
The lighting and everything.
Yeah, it's a cool print. We sell a lot of these too.
Oh, so if you have those images, we can put them up on your Facebook page.
Yep.
People can. Oh, nice. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Well, I'm being mindful. Richard just reminded me that you wanted to keep this at.
Yeah, we're getting close here.
We're at
Here's that other book.
There's the other book. See the same
Booty-
photograph, different angle?
Oh,
That's a
And
nice,
isn't that a cool photo?
I love that, the cross. It's just beautiful.
It's
Yeah, you did a
really
great job.
beautiful. Now, can people order that book through you too, or does that get purchased?
Yeah,
Okay.
all three of the books. Facts book, the names book, and the Titanic's Last Hero. That's about
Gorgeous.
huh?
Guys, I
Oh.
love that.
John, yeah, it's about Reverend John Harper. That's what it's about. Baptist minister who was on Titanic.
That's the one that he got a request from one of the chaplain of one of the prisons, and he ordered a case of books.
Yeah, to give to all his prisoners.
Which prison was that?
Oh, I don't know. I'd never heard of the place. It was in Illinois somewhere.
Yeah. But
Anyway,
anyway, the chaplain ordered.
Yeah, the chaplain of the prison ordered 50 odd copies of this book to give one to all the people in his Bible study class. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah.
One of the members here, I think, he said, I just want to say the best thing about the great Titanic is that because of it, I've found so many good persons like you. And what makes it more beautiful is the same passion brought us closer around the globe. Thank you all for being so great. I think that's something too. We do get to meet people that, from all over the world. I have friends that are like, what is your fascination? I said, gosh, this story is a tragedy, but it's just a great way to learn about people, not only from 1912, the passengers, but meeting other people that study the ship or the passengers that
Right.
live in all corners of the globe, here, there, and everywhere. And
It's just
like a big family.
I never thought I would meet Don Lynch, and it was a year ago, St. Patrick's Day, that Joe arranged a dinner with him, his son, Kathy, myself, Lee, and a few other who played extras in Cameron's movie. And I never thought I was going to meet Don Lynch, and I got all nervous like the last 5 minutes when we were going to meet. And I said to Lee, I'm like, oh my God, he's here. That's how I was just, and I never thought in a million years I would meet, because he was on Oprah, he was had an uncredited role in the movie. And I ended up sitting next to him and spent 4 hours talking. And I said to myself, I am not going to mention Titanic unless he brings it up. I'm not going to mention the T word. And so he did. We were,
But
we
tell him what you talked about most of that time.
Oh yeah, we talked about recipes, rental property. And he goes, I tell him about this recipe. It's about smothered something with onions. And he goes, really? I would really like that recipe. I said, you're kidding. He says, no. So
Isn't that great?
Oh, okay. So I wasn't allowed to give him his, the email address. So I gave it to Joe. And I said, please give this to, I finally remembered to give it to him. And so maybe a couple of weeks later, maybe a month later, I'm talking to Joe via Messenger. And he goes, by the way, Don loved that recipe. And I'm like, no way. So he likes cooking as much as I do. But it was so fun talking to him, as a matter of fact. And he was very tall, and I really wanted to meet Ken Marshall and tell him how I thought about his painting, and I wanted to meet him, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. So hopefully next time. But it was nice to meet him again on your page, and God, he remembered me. And
he did. He was his whole face lit up when he saw you guys. It was really cute. Well, then I was like, wait, you're married to Lee? I don't know how all these years have gone by. I never made the connection. Because you're like, here I am with Lee. I'm like, wait, Lee Merideth? The author Lee Merideth?
Yeah.
All the times we've talked over the years, I was like, wait.
Did he ever tell you about, he told me some wild stories. Did he ever tell you about the story of Leonardo DiCaprio?
No.
Lee, tell the story about Leonardo DiCaprio.
We need to hear that. I know, Lee, I wasn't in on that other meeting, so I know you probably feel like
he didn't tell it the other.
things.
He saved that story for you.
Oh, really? That's so nice.
All right,
Right.
my Leo story. See out in San Francisco. I think about where it was. San Francisco. So we were there at the gift shop one night. It was getting close to closing time. There was hardly any people left in the store, and I'm sitting there at my table writing or doing something, and this little old lady walks up. Looks like anybody that age looks like my grandmother. Anyway, she walks up and she walks over to the table and we start chatting, and she wants to know about the book and how I got interested in this. And so she says, "Well, I'm here with my son, with my grandson," and she said, "That's him walking around over there. He's got his baseball cap on backwards, you know. He's walking around looking at stuff." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I just start chatting with her again, and she says, we this conversation kept going, and she finally says, "Well, that's my grandson." "Oh, okay. Well, that's great. I'm glad you're here with him." And she looks at me, and she looks at him and says, "Do you know who that is?" I looked at him and I said, "No." And says, "That's my grandson." "Okay, I understand that. You know, that's Leo." "Oh, okay. Hi, Leo." And I'm
Hi,
talking to her.
Leo.
She says, "That's my grandson, Leonardo DiCaprio." She says Leonardo DiCaprio, and I went, "Okay," because I didn't place the name. I didn't place the fact that he was in Titanic, and now he's standing here in the gift shop. So I didn't even recognize him. So she goes,
She's like, "That's my
"Don't worry,
grandson."
don't worry." You know, she calls him over, and he comes up to the desk, and we stood there talking for maybe an hour. And there wasn't anybody else in the store, and we were just chatting about things. I wasn't asking for autographs, and he wasn't asking for autographs.
You probably loved that you didn't know who he was. That made
Yeah.
it
And
even
he
more
loved the
interesting.
idea. I didn't know who he was because he never gets to go anywhere without people mobbing him for autographs and whatever. So he was having a good time. And the store clerk and the guy running the store that night, he came over and he was on the conversation. And he sent one of his employees out, and they brought a whole cart full of coffee and
Oh,
donuts up for us. We stood around in the gift shop and we're eating donuts and drinking coffee and talking about things.
oh,
He ended up buying a
wow.
couple books, or actually, Grandma bought the
Oh, he did?
but,
Nice.
yeah. So it was just guy walks in. I don't even recognize who he is. When they tell me who he is, I don't know anyway. So it's one of those weird things. I don't keep track of stuff like that in movies. And my wife does.
Another story that I want to tell you, just one more story, is that he was doing he was doing a signing in Philadelphia, and this woman comes in with her son. Yeah, he knows what I'm talking about. And it turns out to be Kelly Ripa and her son Mark and the kids. And
Oh,
so they're talking, and he loves Kelly. I love Kelly. She's funny. And Marcus
it's funny.
Mark is a piece of eye candy, I'll tell you that. But for women, I can say that because Lee's enthralled with Kate. But anyway, so she buys some books, and he says, "Who do I make it out to?" "Me." "Oh, okay, me. Who's me?" She goes, "Kelly." Kelly Ripa or Kelly. So he signs it out. And they had a really good conversation. And so this was the weekend, and then this is when she was still with Regis. And they usually say, "Well, what did you do this weekend?" and whatever. And so it was Kelly's turn. I think she was first. And according to what Lee told me, he said, "Well, we went to this Titanic exhibit, and we met this really nice, he's an author, Lee Merideth. And I don't know for the book, free advertising. Okay."
Oh,
And
copy of the book up.
gosh.
pulls it. And then he gets a call from the person who distributes his books. He goes, "What happened?" He goes, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "You sold out of both books." And Oprah is not the only one who does good advertising. And all she said was Lee Meredith, and hold up his book. And then
The warehouse sold out of it in about 2 days after that. Yeah.
Wow.
What a
It was
compliment.
Kelly Ripa, and I didn't recognize who she was. She's not all dressed up and stuff. I don't recognize these people.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they're just normal people. Like Lee says, we all put our pants on one leg at a time. So
Right, they're just regular people hanging out. But
yeah,
gosh, with Leo's grandma, you wouldn't have been a chance if she wasn't so insistent like that.
Renee
yeah.
Zellweger came into the one here in Vegas one day with some friend of hers, and when she's not dressed up, she doesn't. She looks like she crawled in off the street, but
Oh,
she was in there. And one of the people at the entrance recognized her and put the word out that Renee Zellweger was in the exhibit. And then they closed the exhibit for a half hour so she could go through and not be bothered. And she came out the other end, and she walked up, and I was talking to her. And I just said, "Hi, Renee. How you doing? Did you enjoy the exhibit?" She says, "You're not going to ask me for an autograph?" I said, "No."
I love it. They probably love
You
you.
know, and so she, we talked a bit, and then here come the mob. So I got her out of there before the mob showed up. But yeah, I mean,
They
people come and
appreciate that, Lee.
meet all these things, huh?
They appreciate that,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Why don't you just set your phone so you don't keep jumping up and down, moving around?
okay.
Set it down. So, yeah.
Wow. So I'm sure people are wondering what Leonardo DiCaprio was like. Was he really down to earth?
Oh
I
yeah,
know
he was
he's a
just
big
he was the most
activist for,
probably the most down to earth guy you'd ever meet.
he
And we
cares
just
about
sat
the
there and talked about it.
environment and
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Because we didn't talk about Titanic, we didn't talk about his movies, we didn't, we just talked about life, and he's every other word out of his mouth was, "I love my grandmother." I always take my grandmother everywhere I go. So everywhere he travels, he takes grandma with him. So that
that's
was,
sweet.
yeah.
When,
So,
when he won his Oscar, his mom was present. He always
Yeah.
brings, according to Lee, he's either with his mother or his grandmother, but that keeps him grounded. But look how great he turned out.
yeah.
I mean, he's done very well for himself for a young man. I mean, he's done, his acting career. I'm glad he won an Oscar for The Reverend, finally. It was just a shame he wasn't nominated for Titanic because he did a great job. That's what, that at that time I was really, and as for Kate, it takes a lot to pretend you're freezing in a, sub-zero temperature, even though it's room temperature water. And
It was not room temperature water.
Right.
It was cold, I heard.
Yeah, it was very cold water. They wanted everybody to look like they were cold.
I was just like, I wish Kate won the Oscar versus Helen. I like Helen Hunt in As Good as It Gets, but for something about Kate, she was just, both of them were, they gave their all. And it just, really disappointed me that Lee wasn't nominated at all, but I'm glad Kate at least was nominated, but I think she should have won, so, I mean, but from what Lee told me, he was really the most down to earth person you would ever want to meet. And I was glad he left a good taste in his mouth, because it could have been the opposite,
And he's got your books on his shelf. That's exciting.
Yeah, both of them, yeah.
If we were at a gathering and Lee and I went, he went one way, I went the other, and I ran into Leo, I was like, well, you would remember my husband.
You would say probably not. He's only met 9 million people.
You never know. You never know.
But you're so humble, Lee. You just have such a nice way about you. You're selling your books, but you're not like selling you. You're selling Titanic, which makes you very humble.
Yeah, this whole experience.
Great story. It's a great story. I love the story.
Yeah.
Great, the whole family of Titanic has been wonderful. I've got about 10 Facebook pages. I think I'm part of Titanic, and I love the pictures and people like overseas. I've got a pen pal from France. His name is Frederic Simon, and he loves Titanic. He was my first overseas pen pal through Facebook, and he loves old pictures. He loves. I send him old pictures from like way back when, like the one Lee. Remember the picture of them eating lunch on the Chrysler? They were eating lunch on that ledge, doing the Chrysler Building. That old famous picture. He loves that. He loves vintage pictures, and anything about Titanic he loves. But I have to. I gotta Google. I gotta do Google Translate. He understands. But it was so fascinating because, I'm bridging so many relationships now, I can't wait to go back to England because I've got a lot of connections now through Titanic. I want Belfast so bad. So
Have you
And
seen the Titanic map that the Swiss Titanic Society put out? It's a map of Titanic locations all around the world. It's really wonderful.
no,
I mean, if you're
no.
traveling, it's just a great place to go. And then Adrian is, Helen or Margaret Brown actually helped um, with the Lighthouse Memorial in New York City. So there's a gentleman named Adrian right now who's working to refurbish it and bring it back to life and get the light turned back on. So he's going to have a big event in New York City in 2022.
It's just a lot of fun.
It's just a nice way to see what's going on and meet people.
We are still planning. A good friend of mine we had dinner with last week. Her and I were planning a Titanic event in Vegas, and it just didn't come through because of the location. And she had all these ideas, and she said, maybe I can get Celine to sing. I'm like, Celine? She said, Dion. I'm like, oh, she said, most matter of fact, and then when Celine couldn't do it, she goes, well, I think if we don't, for the Star Spangled Banner, I think I'll ask Pia to do it. I said, Pia? Yeah, Pia Zadora. And I'm like, no way, you don't. And she's a good friend of hers. I mean, these people that are like, and so, and we were getting it together, and then it just, it's Vegas. It's hard to know somebody to plan this. So we'll still plan it. And then Joe had something planned, and then it fell through, the Queen Mary. And so I was planning on going that, but it fell through because of this COVID-19 stuff. So, but we're still going to plan one for Vegas, because that would be pretty cool to have a Titanic event in Vegas.
I know. I want to come out for that.
Yeah.
Since you're telling all my stories, tell her what I really think about Celine's song.
Oh, that.
Oh, you have an opinion on this?
No, what happened was I planned something on. I was looking for one of the news stations, local TV news stations, to do his talk, to do something about Titanic. This was 2014. It was the week of the anniversary, and I said, well, I'm going to plan, find someone for you. And I went through all the local TV news stations, and then finally Fox 5 said, show me what you have. And I was shocked. And so I eventually got him on, and they had the picture of Titanic, and they were really excited. So they went to a commercial break, and he was given the permission to do the Titanic slot machine. And these just came out because it was
Titanic slot machine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love that machine.
It
Brand
was
new machine.
Yeah, ballets, and it had all the things from the movie, because it had to get the okay from Mr. Cameron. So he does the slot machine. Oh no, they come back from the commercial break and they play his song, and then all of a sudden Lee clasps his ears, his hands over his ears, like, I hate this song.
You don't want me to sing it to you
on live
TV?
On live TV. Yeah, they played the song, and Lee just put the hands over his ears. He's like, I hate this song.
La 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 la.
Yeah.
He said
Live
it
TV.
on
Michelle
live TV.
just went berserk.
And I'm like, Celine may be in town. She may be watching. He goes, so I don't care. I do.
That's a good.
Ass.
I was so sick of that song.
Well, because they played it over and over.
Yeah.
That's what the radio does.
Over again.
They ran it around. It was awful. Yeah, I mean, but I guess she didn't like it either. So it was funny, but that's the story. And he still got that clip. We have that. They sent that clip of that whole ordeal from Fox 5. And, he's done a few radio interviews, but, I'm just trying to get him to do something, now that I'm beginning to know people of the media, maybe they'll do something on the weekend or something, when it comes around. So, but apart from that, it was a lot of fun seeing him up there showing up. I said, I guess I'm your bookie. I told him. booking you here, booking you there. But I just, he's got 2 wonderful books on Titanic, and one, and then Titanic's Hero, and then the USS Hornet. He's got a lot of books out there that, I want him to stand out and, you know, be recognized like all the other authors.
Oh, I know.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I was going through some of the stuff on the internet, and I know a lot of us Titanic fans are also fans of history and other ships in general. And I was hoping you would touch on any other books that you had out there, especially the Hornet one. I'm interested in that.
Well, that's basically the only other book I have out right now. Is when I was living in California, I spent 9 years as a docent, which means free work for free volunteer on the aircraft carrier Hornet. It's a museum over there now in Alameda, which is next across the bay from San Francisco. And the Hornet had been in World War II and then in Vietnam both, and it was the recovery vessel for the Apollo 11 astronauts coming back from the moon landings. So anyway, it's a museum over there, and I got involved in being a tour guide. And somewhere along the line, the word got out that I had written a book on Titanic, and a bunch of the guy who was in charge over there wanted to know if I'd write a book for him because they had this gift shop and there'd never been anything written about Hornet. So I said, yeah, I'd do it, but I'm not going to travel all over the world looking for doing research. I just don't have the time to do it. And he said, well, follow me downstairs. They took me down to the archives down there, and they had several thousand square feet of stuff that they collected over the years from the museum.
Oh.
He said, go for it. So I did all the research right there in the archives, and I wrote this book. Took about 9 months to get it out, and I published it. And it's still, this is I haven't been down there. It's been 20 years since I left there, and they're still buying the books. They don't sell a lot of them because they don't have that much traffic through there. What they do a lot of is they'll get an organization or a group that will come through and they'll buy 100 tickets and they'll charge an additional $10 on each of these $100 tickets and give everybody a free book. A lot of that happens down there. But so that's the Hornet book. So basically it's a complete history of the aircraft carrier Hornet, which has quite a history, especially World War II. It went over a year without ever touching a dock. I mean, it's the entire time. And it was also off Vietnam. I think it's three or four cruises off Vietnam during that time. And in 1970, they decommissioned it. They were going to scrap it. And a bunch of guys, crew members, and aircraft carrier former crew members from wherever got together and raised the money to preserve it. It's now this nice museum in Alameda. So that's what that's about. And then the only other two books I have out are indexes for Civil War magazines. And I sold all those out years ago. They still show up on the internet every once in a while. But one of the things I got interested when I was, about 1988, I started on this. I had this weird brain. I don't know what it is, but I like detail stuff. And so I ended up indexing Civil War magazines. So everybody's got all these magazines and nobody can find anything in them. I got a 52-year subscription to a Civil War magazine. And there are all these articles and all this stuff in there, but you can never find anything because no index. So guess what I did? I indexed them. And there were 3 books that came out, total a little over 3,000 pages. And all they are is indexes of Civil War magazines, what's in the contents in the articles. So I published those. I printed 1,000 sets and I sold them all. And I still got just a couple sets left. But yeah, so that's the other thing I got out there. And I also do a lot of design work for a lot of books that are on the internet. And my name pops up all the time in the introduction, that kind of stuff. But I do the layout and design for a lot of books, mostly on Civil War and World War II history.
Yeah, well, a lot of us like all kinds of history.
Yeah, anything that has to do with history, I love it.
Gino just joined us. He's joined us from South Africa. You want to say hi, Gino?
Hi, Gino. I see you over there. Yeah. How'd you find us with this weird time zone change?
He's got to turn his microphone on. Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Oh, you got to turn your microphone on. There you go.
There we go.
Hi, Lee.
Hi. All right. I like that picture in the background.
Thank you.
Oh, that's nice.
I love that
Yeah.
boat.
Is that your model? He built the largest Titanic model in South Africa. He calls it Titanic. Oh, it is because you can read the
Titanic?
lettering
Yeah,
there.
Titanic. I like that.
Tin-
Yeah, made of tin.
How big is it? How many feet?
She's 27 feet.
27?
Wow.
Yeah.
You ever hear about the kid that made the Lego model? It was 28 feet long.
Yeah, I hear about him all the time.
Yeah. he built it in the basement.
Wow.
And then
Oh, yeah.
he and his dad built it in the basement. They could never get it out. They had to tear the thing apart in order to get it out of the basement.
Oh, that's sad.
They took it apart and put it up in one of the Titanic exhibits in Columbus, Ohio, years ago. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that one's made out of tin, huh? That took a
Yes.
few years.
Yeah, it took 3 years to build.
3
Yeah.
years.
Nice
Yeah.
though.
And it's not just a model. I mean, Gino actually builds furniture and it has people in the room. So
Oh,
it's
yeah?
not just a physical. How many
So
rooms
that
do you think you have done so far, Gino?
Well, the Titanic has 4,000 rooms on the inside, and I haven't started decorating any of them yet. So that's a big thing that's going to happen.
This is going to take a while.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I figure that if you go systematically about it, you'll get around to it eventually. So
Yeah.
because everything on the inside is basically copy and paste. So once you've got one master of an item, you're basically just duplicating until you've furnished the whole thing. You only have to keep an eye out for public spaces and unique rooms that are different from your cookie cutter parts of the ship. That's going to be the tricky part. But if you do it sectionally and you do it bit by bit, eventually you'll end up finishing it in a couple of years' time.
Well, good. Good. Keep
He's
us
got a
informed.
big
How are you
event.
doing on this thing? How are you doing,
Sorry,
Michelle?
Lee?
Thing.
Everybody heard that. I don't know what you were doing.
Oh.
Yeah. So I said, yeah, keep us in touch. Keep in touch. Let us know how you're
You
doing
want
on
to
that
share
thing.
about your event, your big event on September 1st? Might as well.
Yeah, we're launching Titanic in 3D on the 1st of September, which basically is the next step in the evolution of Titanic exhibits. We're basically going to go all digital with it. So there'll be a website that goes with it, a
Awesome.
book that goes with it. And you basically need a password for the website so that you can gain access to all of the information. And also video clips and stuff that we don't generally share with people or with the public in general. So that's going to be awesome. And basically it's going to be an exhibition. So the idea sparked, through Joel and the Titanic Book Club with the Zoom meetings that they've been having about producing a show that is all live and from an entirely different standpoint. We want to interview people with unique Titanic collections and with unique pieces in their collections from all over the world and connect people in that way. So, there are a couple of people in the country alone in South Africa that's got some amazing pieces in their exhibits as well. So it's worth a share.
Good.
Yeah, so
Congratulations.
I got a
Thank you.
couple comments here. Sean Donner said, I was lucky enough to spend part of the evening with Melvina Dean aboard the Queen Mary for the THS convention. And Joseph Ricker said, good afternoon, Lee. I hope all is well.
Hi, Joe.
Thank you.
And Sean said, I got to hold her hand and give her a kiss on the cheek. Well, I'm jealous. She's one of my heroes because I don't know. She had a nice philosophy on life, have a kind heart and a sense of humor. That was her motto.
Yeah.
Very nice. Nice motto. Melisande wanted to know if you've met any of the officers' families. Do you remember any of their descendants?
Oh, I don't know if this was an actual descendant or not. They had a woman or girl, she was probably mid-20s, come into the exhibit in, I think it was in Philadelphia. And she came in there, and she made some comment about Captain Smith, and when I started talking about Captain Smith, and she says, "Yeah, I'm his great granddaughter. I think 3 or 4 greats by this time. Great granddaughter." I'm going,
Sounds great.
"Wow, this is cool." And so I started asking her questions, and she basically shot me down. She just didn't want to have anything to do with it. And she finally admitted, she says, "I hate the story. I don't like the guy. I don't care what happened to him. He sunk the ship. He killed all those people. I had nothing to do with Captain Smith." With that, she turned around and walked away. So I don't know if she was telling me the story, or she was some descendant of Captain Smith, but that is probably the only person I know of that I can think of offhand that I met that was a descendant of any of the officers of the ship.
And that was such a drastic reply. She
Oh, I know.
obviously she hadn't done her homework or anything. She obviously hadn't read your books.
Yeah, well,
We don't even know if she was legitimate either. So
yeah, I don't know if she was legitimate. That's the other thing. So she may have just come in there. She may have seen the movie and then, yeah, I'm Captain Smith's great
Yeah,
granddaughter.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Kyrilla Sully, I hope I'm saying her name right, wrote a book called Titanic Imposters. And it was all about the different people who said they were on the ship, and a lot of people also got in line, for the fund, the survivors fund. You want to get them the money. They may or may not have been on.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah, there's a lot of downside to there's an upscale and there's a downscale to Titanic, and a lot of it's just it's fraud and cheesy, and I've noticed that. I noticed that when it was in the exhibit in Dearborn, so much untruth to it. They like to put in mixed fiction with. I mean, it's Cameron's movie, but I'm talking outside that. I'm just saying, people make up stuff.
But you really have to do your homework and find out. It's still to today. I feel like I'm still finding out something new that I didn't.
Me too.
Oh, yeah, after all these years, I'm still learning stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
Melisande has a very interesting theory that I'm going to float out here since she popped up. Apparently, one of the officers was engaged, I forget which one, to Catherine Bex. I think that's the name. And this was his he was going to get married when he got back. Well, anyway, supposedly he purchased a necklace for his fiancee as a wedding present, and Melisande is thinking that he may have given it to somebody before he passed away. So that is the thing. She's looking for that necklace, if it exists, to go out there. So I just thought I'd throw that out because we've been talking about it. She's in Germany, and we've had quite a few discussions on it. So anyway, just if anybody has an idea, there's somebody who's wanting to know.
That wasn't the one Kate threw off the back of the deck on the movie.
No.
Wasn't it Kate Phillips? Kate Phillips was like the mistress of
Guggenheim?
No, not
No.
Guggenheim. Gosh, I'm trying to remember. It was an article someone had sent into the book club newsletter, and
It wasn't the Kate Phillips. It wasn't that.
It wasn't that one because
it wasn't that one. It was, he had bought it for his fiance, and one of the officers that died.
I was going to mention a week. You know the story about Frankie Goldsmith. His great grandson, he's getting married a week from today.
Oh.
Yeah. And he doesn't really go into the different pages and stuff. But I'm a Facebook friend of his, and like me, he's getting married for the very first time, and he's 53. And
This is Frank Goldsmith Jr. Is this?
It's Michael Goldsmith. He's got like he's got a couple other brothers.
Oh, Michael. I think I'm friends with Michael on
Yeah,
Facebook.
nice.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, he's good.
Oh,
I'll send you a forward the announcement because he sends me stuff all the time. I send him stuff all the time, just in general. And but he told me something interesting. I asked him about this one page, and he said he's sort of sworn off those because he was on a Facebook page where he was talking about his family and strangers were correcting his story.
Wow.
And he said they acted like they knew the whole story more than he did, and this is his grandfather. And I'm thinking, well, I can see why. I don't blame you, you know. And I thought that's kind of ballsy of people who think they know it all. And this is his grandfather. His grandfather probably told him stories or something, but he was one of the Michigan connections. So I told him about when I met Michael Goldsmith, and I told him about this. What I knew about his dad, he said I was his grandfather. He said I was spot on about that, you know, because he confirmed everything I knew that I knew from the Detroit exhibit back in 2003. So it's nice to have a friend who's sort of like who's a descendant of a survivor, and just a nice young man. He's maybe 2 or 3 years younger than me, but nice guy. And like me, he's getting married for the very first time, and I related that story to him, so.
yeah, but Frankie's the one that couldn't bear going to the baseball game, right?
Right,
Because
right.
The crowd sounded like the screams of people.
Yeah,
Almost
exactly.
unbelievable.
Took his son or grandsons to a baseball game because of the screams reminded him of that night. I mean, that screwed everybody up, to be honest with you. If I saw a beautiful ship like that break into, I don't think I'd have Titanic on my wall today. I don't think I could do that. You know, it's just, you know, family gone down on the ship. I don't know. So.
If I may come in here, just out of interest, sake, for descendants of Titanic, passengers or crew, in South Africa we have a descendant of Thomas Andrews, which is Redmond Taggart, and initially when I met him, also he came up to me at the Titanic Artifact exhibit and introduced himself as Redmond Taggart, great nephew of Thomas Andrews, and I just thought, yeah, right. Yeah, you're another one, another descendant, another person, who's claiming to be a relative, of somebody who was on the Titanic. Of course, he was very much, honest and real and decent, and it turned out to be the truth. I mean, he actually invited me over to his house, and we were going through old photographs, and he's telling me, old stories and all that stuff. It was really magical and amazing. Anyways, just out of interest, I asked him. I said, well, do you feel special or weird being a Titanic descendant? Do you have anything to say with regards to the sinking of the Titanic and, Thomas Andrews being the designer? And he said, just plainly said that, none of the Andrews family, actually go out. They don't go out and flaunt it, and they don't really discuss it as much as people think. There's nothing special about them. They don't feel any different. It's just somebody who was on the Titanic, and it happened to be Thomas Andrews as a relative. And I've met a lot of people throughout the years come up to the Titanic exhibit and claim to be connected to the Titanic through some other passenger, and there's no real way of corroborating their story. You can't always have the proof, that they were, because it happens so fast. They don't come with their whole family tree up to you and say, but this is how I'm related. In some cases, we also have a lady who's a friend of mine, who said that she's also a family member of Captain Smith, somewhere along the line of that family tree, but no real way of corroborating it, I'm afraid.
Titanic.
Hello from America.
My girlfriend Pam.
Where are you guys? The Marigold Hotel in Vegas?
We're at Suncoast, or
Sunset Station.
Sunset Station.
We're besties.
So nice.
Yeah.
That's true. I tried having a Descendants Facebook group years ago, but it was difficult. And Don Lynch was like, be careful, Jill, because you don't know if people really were on the ship or not. And then there were people that wanted to like get
Yeah.
information out of the Descendants so they could write books about them. So it wasn't, I was hoping it could just be a place for them to go and get to know each other. And then but sometimes they don't want to talk about it. They just want to be left alone or just, get to know each other. A lot of people didn't seem to even want to talk about it because it was such a tragedy. Like, like Melvina Dean herself, she didn't want to go see the Titanic movie. She's like, why would I want to go? I don't care if I get the whole theater to myself. My father died on that ship. That's not entertainment for me to go and watch that again.
Have you all seen the? I'm sure you've all seen the Cameron movie. You've probably all seen the Night to Remember and the Barbara Stanwyck, what's his name movie? It's out. But have anybody here seen the German language version that came out during World War II?
Do they call it like the Nazi Titanic or something?
It's called Titanic. It's a regular DVD. It's a DVD, and it's the subtitles. Of course, it's a German propaganda movie, and the guy who directed it was having trouble finding crew members to be in his movie. So he was using the German Navy, and this was in 1942, I think 42, 43 time frame. Stupid clock, shut up. But anyway, he finally got soldiers and sailors from the military to be his extras in his movie, and then they wouldn't cooperate. And he started complaining to this about the authorities, the Nazi authorities. They finally pulled him off the movie and sent him out and said, you got your choice. You can shoot yourself or else. So he ended up committing suicide. They made him commit suicide. This was the director.
Gosh.
Then they finished the movie, and by then the war was almost over with. And they decided it was not a great propaganda movie anymore because, the Allied planes were destroying Germany and everything else. So, but the premise of it was the guy, there was a German Navy officer who was on Titanic as a guest type thing. And he's trying to second guess Captain Smith. Of course, Captain Smith wouldn't do what he wanted, but it was going to be the great German naval officer who was going to save Titanic. And because Captain Smith wouldn't listen to him, that's why the ship sank. Anyway, if you ever get a chance to watch it, a lot of the scenes that were shot for that ended up in A Night to Remember, the movie itself, because they were so well done.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's an interesting piece of filmmaking. I actually went to film school at Saddleback College in Mission Viejo. I went through the film program, and one of the things that was recommended we watch was some of Lenny Riefenstahl stuff.
Riefenstahl's, yeah.
Yeah, Triumph of the Will and stuff, just to get the cinematic aspect of what she did, because some of that stuff is so well done, even though the content was rubbish. But yeah, that was a very interesting. The Titanic movie was very interesting, to say the least. Very, very biased, very propaganda, and a lot of the scenes were very well done. And
it is
not surprising they made it into a night.
It's out on DVD. You might be able to find it on Netflix or something like that. But it's worth it.
I was watching SOS Titanic last night because Ian Holm passed away, and I heard he played Ismay, one of the first portrayals of Ismay, and it was It was a good movie. All-star cast. Have you guys seen that? The SOS Titanic?
Been a
I've
while.
seen it. I want to get the DVD of it, but everywhere that sells it for $100 or more.
Wow.
Over eBay, I kept looking and it was like $100, $70, $150 every time I tried to get a copy.
Oh my God.
Jill?
I'm watching it on Canopy. It's an app. If you just use your library card, you can watch it.
Jill,
Yes.
we can add that to our Wednesday night movie night list because I have it.
Oh yeah, I will have to add Melissa to our little group. She can do our watch parties with us.
Yeah, because we have a movie night every Wednesday night over in another group, just to do something fun. So
Did you two catch the Ghost Adventure?
What is that?
episode?
the Ghost Adventure, yes, I have it. I found it yet last night. After that, watched it. Was really good.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to have a watch party and watch it. So, have you seen it?
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
got it saved on my DVR, and I had no idea they did that. And matter of fact, I sent a message to Jamie and I said, "What was that?" And she told me it was a while ago. And they always have ghost hunts. Matter of fact, there was a couple times she would invite me to the ghost hunt, and I just think that would be the coolest thing. I want to write in to Zach and say, do it at the Luxor. He lives in Vegas. That's a perfect story.
Oh, that would be a no-brainer, really.
Have an event. We'll come. We'll fly Gino in.
They had yeah, and the one on the Queen Mary, the Ghost Adventures one they did on the Queen Mary was very interesting too. We've actually we've done that. We were actually tuning in and watching the live ghost well, it's a ghost hunt that they were doing.
Oh, the Aiden Sinclair. Have you guys
Aiden Sinclair thing. I am so bad with names. I'm sorry.
Guess what I found? Where am I there?
Yeah.
There's the movie.
There it is.
Wait, is
There it
that?
is.
Oh, wow.
That's the
What
DVD
language
cover.
is that in? I don't have my glasses.
It's in German, English subtitles. This one may be in English. I'm trying to see, but anyway, it's well worth it. I mean, it's a good movie. If you're watching Titanic movies, you put this add this one.
Joseph Ricker just said he has a copy if anyone wants it. He said if
We
anyone
can add
sends
it.
me a 128 gigabyte drive, I'll put all my Titanic specials on it.
We can watch. I have that, so we can watch it for movie night. If you want to add that to our movie night list, Jill.
Ooh, yay! I guess you'll have to let us know if you want to.
Yeah, it says that the director got in trouble when the Gestapo tracked him down and they arrested him, and he was later found hanging in his prison cell, the victim of an arranged suicide. But the movie's pretty good. I mean, it's good. So I do recommend you. A lot of historical inaccuracies, obviously, but it's just a fun movie to watch.
All right, that's on our list. Okay, we'll do that in our little movie night. You'll have to come and join us. Lee, you're not really on Facebook though. Michelle's like your Facebook presence.
I absolutely refuse to have a Facebook page. Never done it, never will. Twitter.
I'd like to join you on that.
Yeah.
We'll just tell Michelle, and then when we have our little Zoom watch party, you can watch together.
I got in trouble early this morning when I was showing Lee a picture of Titanic, and I forget his name. It was Titanic, and it had a crew member with a mask, and instead of hitting the oh my gosh emoji, I hit the fun, I hit the hilarious, and he got after me about that, and I said, well, it was an accident. So you still got to be careful.
Yes, I had somebody mad at me the other day. They're like, "You laughed at my blah blah blah." I said, "I think I hit the wrong emoji."
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to tell them there will be people that will laugh because they've seen, it's just like that one cartoon. It said if Titanic sank in 2012 and everybody's in the water with their cell phones recording it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of funny, even though it really wasn't. But, I wanted to say people will find sense of humor in the mask thing because everybody's so sick and tired of it, they're gonna laugh, because it's just, but I
1912.
thing, but
The gallows humor is something that a lot of people don't appreciate, but if you've ever been involved with law enforcement or police and fire or any of that stuff, sometimes that's the only way to cope.
right.
And so finding humor in a disaster, we need to be sensitive on the pages, but still some things are funny.
Right. And some things are not. And it was just a slip of the finger. And
Yep.
he apologized, and I said, well, and just ask, why is this funny? That's what I do. Why is this funny? And, I mean, I like the guy. I never met him. I mean, but I felt bad that I hit the wrong thing. And, he had every right to be upset, but, some people are going to find that
Well,
hilarious.
the internet's hard because when you're typing words, you can't read people's, because if we're talking to each other like this, you can usually know the sincerity. But when people are typing words, things can be taken the wrong way. And
Right. So, I mean,
they can be one thing when you could be writing something all happy and they're taking it as,
yeah, it was just
and I tell you, autocorrect is going to start a war.
Oh yeah.
I said lunch, not launch. So, Lee, have we worn you out yet, or are you still?
Yeah,
I'm getting there. We went an hour over my limit already.
We did. I know. I think you didn't see my little text I texted in here. How are you doing?
This has been
I
fun.
saw it. I just didn't know how to respond to it. So.
Oh, I have to do a little.
I need to tell my husband before he comes back over here to bring a thick sweater.
Oh, you're gonna go over to the Tupperware convention, Lee?
Well,
it's 110 outside and you're cold.
It's like sub-zero in here.
Oh, that's good. I like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
we'll do this offline, Michelle.
okay.
Okay.
Joseph Ricker has he put his information in the Facebook group if people are interested in getting some Titanic movies. Just have to send him your thumb drive. This was so nice. I really appreciate all your stories and spending time with you. And
It was great. Hope you all had a good time. Tell you some of my stories.
It was very fun, very, 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 very informative and very fun. Very fun afternoon.
This is fun.
Yep. Just do
and
it
I like
again
when
sometime.
it's like this. They seem a little more intimate,
Yeah, they are. Yeah, it's not like a million people.
Yeah, you can get to know each other. Everybody can all be on the same screen.
Yep.
I'm sorry I was
all
late.
your information for you, Lee, and I'll put it all up on your page. And
Sounds good. Appreciate it. All right. Well, it's probably about that time. It's like I say, it's 2 hours, so it's 2 hours and 15 minutes. So I'm running out of I'm losing my voice on top of everything else.
Yeah.
Plus, I haven't had breakfast yet. So.
Oh gosh, you need to go and eat breakfast.
He's got to eat his Cheerios, just like me.
So. All right.
Aw,
Well,
thank you so much. And if anybody wants to stay and chat after the meeting, we'll just leave it open.
Okay.
Bye, Lee. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks a lot, guys.
Look forward to talking to you again. And you too, Michelle.
Likewise, I'll see you in an hour or so, honey.
Oh, and Michelle and I are going to do a Zoom Tupperware party someday.
Yes, we
are. Oh, God.
Just sitting by.
You won't find me on that one. No.
I'm sure you have enough Tupperware at your house.
It's fun. Jill, I just wanted to tell you, we do fundraisers, and we can do a fundraiser for Titanic if you wanted to go down there.
That'll be nice. It'd be fun to make a little extra money and auction books off or so. Because I get a lot of messages from people that say, oh, where can I get a book, low charge? I don't really have a lot of money. Or people live in a country where it's hard to get books. I have created a file in the book club for, free ebooks.
Hello.
It'd be nice to have a little extra money for stuff.
I'm glad you came back, Patrick. Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, it'd be nice to talk to women.
Go enjoy your breakfast, Lee. Thank you so much for your time and your story.
Thank you now. Y'all have a good day, okay?
We'll see ya.
Thank you,
Thank
Lee.
you.
Talk to y'all later, okay? Hey, Gino, don't forget to keep us updated on that.
Okay, thank you, Leah. Well,
Yeah, I'll send you his information too.
All right,
I'll
I'm
keep
interested.
Michelle. I'll keep Michelle.
great.
Yeah.
That's a great.
Take care, Gino. Thank you.
It's
Oh,
hard
thank
with
you
you
so
Gino
much.
right now because his model's off in storage right now because it's hard with the virus and everything. It's like,
Yeah, we got
All right,
asked to do
I'm
a
signing
wedding.
out, folks. So it's good
All
talking
right.
to you all. Take care.
Bye,
See you in
Lee.
an
Bye,
hour.
guys.
Bye, Lee.
Bye bye.